Anyway, we can start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll put the thumb out there, okay? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Based upon the prior gathering that we had, we realized that there's more and more people that are showing up, and we appreciate that. Tomorrow's Mother's Day, that's one of the reasons why we get up to MPCs today. But nevertheless, what we've gone ahead with is a lanyard system here. So this is kind of a neat little lanyard. I don't know if you've taken a look at it. And what it is, it actually matches up to the screen. Rick, we moved it. Thank you. Thank you, sir. And what it does, it matches up to the village's club's website. Okay? Now, the neat thing about it, we talked about this last month, right? And what's the name of that website? 3 words, plural. Great. And why is that really important? Because when you meet somebody new and they say, hey, how do I get in touch with the club, or how do I join? The village's club. Okay. Now, instead of just having a lanyard with numbers or the dates, guess what? If you actually open this thing up, it's pulled out ever so gently. What you have is a piece of paper. You have, in essence, a business card. So your task over the next week is to find a neighbor, a friend, or somebody else and introduce them to our club. And correct them. At the end of the day, at the end of the meeting, if you be so kind as to toss them by the, we have some walking baskets I grabbed. It's very official. Just drop them in there. We'll figure it out from there. But anyway, it's kind of cool. Moving on to what has happened with Donald Trump? What has he done since he left?
I don't know.
What goofy things has he said or done? Canada is going to be the 51st state. The Gulf of America. I'm sorry, what if Mexico says, hey, you know what? I see it. We have a Gulf of California. What should we do? The other one is open up Alcatraz. And then finally, he wants a military parade for his 79th birthday. I believe he's the oldest living president in office. Is that correct? If I was him, I wouldn't be advertising it. All right. One of the reasons for doing this is that so as an ongoing basis, it will remind us about what he said and when did he say it. We can't remember everything, but if we remember the big stuff, this is how you can remember. You can bring up to folks that you run into. Okay. So, for example, remember what he said in the past? That the Ukraine war was going to be ended on his first day? Got one? You know what his slogan was in 2020? Honest to gosh, his official slogan.
Make America great again.
Well, that's what he's always had. But in 2020, I couldn't believe it. He had the guts to have it. It said, promises made, promises kept.
Yeah.
I'll bring the slide. I'll have it next week, or next month. It truly is funny. At first, when I saw that, I said, no, it just has to be a joke. No, it's for real. And that's why I wanted to do is remind him of these promises that he's made.
Bill, he was going to end the Ukraine war before he was sworn in.
Okay. I don't know if he realizes he's been sworn in. The other item is that he's going to build some hotels in Gaza. Okay. You ever hear about Greenland anymore? Okay. All right. And a trade deal every day. Okay. These are the statements that he makes. You don't have to remember them all. All you have to do is almost like have a jukebox in your mind mentally go, if you're talking to somebody who's on the other team, just go, oh, tell me more about Greenland. How's that going? Okay. You'll need a short conversation. Now, I was done when I put that list together, I was looking back and saying, okay, what has he said in the past? What did he do in his first term? I call Trump 1. So let's see what he said. There's 3 things that really jumped out. Slide. His first thing. He's going to build a wall. Item number 2 is that he's going to get Mexico to pay for it. Okay? And there's some places they have 3 strikes laws, right? Shouldn't there be a 3 strikes for not telling the truth?
Yeah.
And here's the third one. Remember how he went after Obama to try to diversify it? What about Trump's taxes? That's why when I saw this, I thought this is perfect. For Obama's asking him, show us your taxes. Because he said those 3 things. He said he's going to build the wall, Mexico's going to pay for it, and he's going to show us the taxes. That's in his first term. That's how he makes those statements. You don't have to remember everything, but just a couple of them. And once again, it's his credibility of statements that he makes that turn out not to be correct. And you can always ask, don't Republicans, don't they believe in law and order in 3 strikes? Okay, so what's going on with what he said recently? Okay, he was going to, prices were going to come down for gas and eggs, right? All right, we get numbers on gas on a weekly basis, eggs come out monthly, all right? The other item he's going to do is the stock market. And then China was going to pay for the Trump tariffs. And I don't like to use the word tariffs by themselves. I would like to attach the word Trump's tariffs, because that's what they are. Okay? So let's take a look at the scorecard. Well, first look at gasoline prices. What has happened since Trump's been in office? When he came to office, it was $3.11. Okay? And they went up to $3.24. And then they came down to $3.15. They're still higher than they were when he started office. But you know what Trump talks about? Look how much he's reduced from the $3.24. Okay? Well, wait a minute. If you jack the price up and it comes down, and it's still higher than what you started with, it's still higher. Okay? Now, these graphs, remember this next flag here? Okay? And if you look carefully over it, see the green thing under news? Okay? We have a section there, economics and perspectives. Every graph that you see here, we're going to have on there with the next 2 days. Sorry for not having them on right now. But that way, you can actually show friends, and you can take this, and you can put it into an email, you can put it on Facebook, you can share it with relatives, you can share it with neighbors who don't necessarily want to see the actual data. And every one of my sources, every one of our sources, it has the ULR, so if someone wants to trust to verify, God, remember that? They used to say that, trust to verify? Yeah, they can trust to verify here. There's the link. This is from the department that comes out weekly. Let's take a look at what's going on with eggs. Okay? We had this last month. And this gets updated in about 4 more days. And what this is, we are at a record high of $6.23. This is national designation, and with the caveats at the bottom of it. This comes from the Bureau of Statistics, and it goes over to the St. Louis Fed. That's where I get the data from. But we're going to keep this because this is a scorecard, because somebody said they're going to vote, he's going to lower prices on energy, eggs, okay? This is a scorecard. Okay, the next one he said was he's going to make this such a robust stock market, we're going to get tired of winning. Okay. Well, he starts off, thank you, he takes the baton from Biden. That's what's over here on the left. This is the Dow Jones. And remember when he came out and said that, oh, we're going to have Trump's tariffs? That's what caused it to dive. And then he pulls back and says, oh, I'm not going to do it on all countries, but I'm still going to go after China. Okay? And everybody goes, oh, it's not that bad. And that's the reason why the part of the stock market came back somewhat. But notice how much lower it is now than what it was at the beginning. People take credit for the stock market coming up. But look at the damage he caused. It's almost like the arsonist who says, you know what, I've got a fire hose and help put out the fire. Thank you. Alrighty, so on Trump's tariffs, what are some of the impacts? Over on the left, that's Barron. Barron was a kid during the Obama-Biden administration. He's at Barron's penthouse in New York. He's sitting on top of the stuffed lion. The lion, honest to goodness, it's large. Okay, this is not like a little Barbie doll or 30 little Barbie dolls. This is a big lion that's sitting on it. And over here on the right, this is what Grandpa Trump is coming out with. Saying, you can't have 30 dolls, you can only have 2, and they're going to cost more. What a great message. Now, one of the things that my wife and I did back in the 90s is that we got into this unusual business. We were both professionals working regular jobs, but it was like, oh, let's get a Google project going. And what we got into was decorative yard flags. Okay? And you're probably wondering, why do I have the bag here? Was anybody wondering why I have a bag here? All right. Well, get ready, because guess what's going to jump out of the bag? This is an old flag. It's kind of cute. Kind of darling, really. Right? This one's for Christmas, and these are what you can hang out in front of your house. And these, in today's dollars, these would cost about, say, $15. That's how much we would pay wholesale. We would retail them for $30, and it was pretty good business. Did really well. It's 145% tariff coming in from China. Our wholesale cost goes from $15 to $35. Would you buy this flag for $70? No. It's a cat. So the point being, this is what's going to happen on the consumer product side, because right now the boats are arriving with the tariffs that have been charged in China. They're now just showing up on U.S. shores. There's a lot fewer items being provided, a lot fewer boats. This has not rippled through yet to the consumer price index, to inflation. And I want to emphasize, it's the consumer pricing, not wholesale. You'll hear Trump talk about stuff, but pay real close attention. He's talking wholesale or consumer prices. There's a huge difference. It's a factor of 2. Okay? So, my best guess estimation is between the time it gets from the ships pull in, they're now coming in with these higher prices. People are trying to figure out, oh, how much are we really paying? And it's like, oh my, I have to mark these things up. In other words, it's going to show up on the retail shelves. And I estimate it's going to start showing up in September of this year. Okay? Why is that important? Okay?
Back to school.
It's Christmas time. But, as being a numbers guy, okay, it's going to be, I'm going to actually walk, so, no, I'm actually going.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Walk and talk.
So this is inflation, okay? When you hear about the consumer price index, right now it's 2.4%. That's an annual number, but how does that annual number come about? Every month, a new month comes on, and so that means, oh, a new one comes on, and let's say I have a bigger table, okay, I have 12 of these on here, so a new one came on, and how many would I have up if I just put a new one on? 13, right? Something has to fall off. So this one comes on, this guy falls off. Fair enough? Yeah. So it's like dominoes. One comes on, one falls off. So what happens in September, roughly, of this year, a big one comes on. Guess what falls off?
The low one.
The little one.
Okay? So we got a big one in there. And guess what happens the next month? One comes on. I don't know how big it's going to be.
But it's going to
And
be
this
bigger
guy
than
falls
that.
off. And then another one comes on. And this guy falls off. So what you wind up with is this will become the gift that will keep on giving for the next 12 months. Okay? So if this is coming on in September approximately of this year, help me with the math, or the calendar now. September, I get into, what's the month before September?
August.
August, and that will be in what year? 26. What's going on in 26?
Midterm.
Do you want to be running for office with high inflation, higher interest rates? Not really. It's going to be a tough road. Okay? If you're a Republican, you just saw what took place in early April here. You're kind of going, do I really want to have myself tied to some guy who I can't trust economically and the things that I do?
But a Democrat would have a field day.
Don't do it, they can't help it.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to do, and I really appreciate if you guys can help me with, is that I brought some extra papers, and I'm going to be doing a membership survey. Okay? And all you have to do is almost like a menu, just check off areas, either professionally what you've done, or things you've been involved with, interest-wise skill sets. Okay? So we're trying to do is build out an org chart within the club so that we can match you up with other people that have similar interests and backgrounds, and or people that like to work on, say, social media, via Facebook or whatever. So that way, if somebody's in education, we can have people who have knowledge of how to go out on social media and get your message out. So if you can stop by, I'll give you the thing. It'll take about 3 to 5 minutes to fill out. And why is this really important? Because you never know who in this club, their background skill sets. For the past 8 months or so, I've been attending new member orientation. And I tell you, it just blows me away. There's usually about 25 and 30 people who attend these, okay, new members. And to hear their backgrounds, do you realize the horsepower of the fellow members that are in the club? It's like off the charts. We get people who have been private sector, public sector, so forth. And you never know who you're going to be dealing with. And what I want to do with this survey is to get people matched up, so that people who have common interests and things, they will go out and conquer the world. Now, just as a point of reference, and I'm watching the time here, okay, that I recently had a dinner with a fella, okay, well, just for us all. And he had a background that kind of stood out to me, kind of unusual, in that he worked in a very large city. He worked in the transit, okay, and he's involved with getting the rates, the schedules. And he's out in the field doing with signs, all right? Not something I deal with on a normal basis. But when I heard that he deals with signs, I'm kind of like, oh, what are we doing around here in the villages recently? That's why I wanted to know you. So we've actually mentioned this last week. We got these wonderful signs, okay? And what you can do with these signs, all right? It's a little bit like a a flat bag. See, you got the bottom of it, all right? And you just slide it on in, slide a little, and press it. Cool. How long does that take me? 5 minutes. We got over 100 of these, okay? And what are we doing with them? We're helping the folks do the roadside on the road signage here. We're also reached out last week to Lake County. We just gave them the signs and said, bring it back when you're done. Okay? We're going to be this coming Saturday. Ocala and Inverness. Ocala is 10 to 4, pardon me, 10 to 12, 10 to noon, and then we swing down to help out in Inverness. Again, what we found out in other rallies and things like that, if we make the signs, people show up, they're much more likely to just be able to grab a sign and go for it, versus like, oh, my magic marker didn't work, my stapler jammed. Okay, each one of those things is an attrition, why people want to show up, get a much higher turnout. Okay? Well, what else do I got? Oh, I don't know. Remember that dinner conversation I had with that guy? Right. Now this is very labor intensive. Put the tape on, this gets wet, okay? He said, he came up with the idea.
TVDC.
Same store, Home Depot, okay? The plastic pipe, we're talking 30 cents.
TVDC.
We're talking about maybe less than $1 here. And guess what this does? Oh, nobody could guess, huh? Has anybody been on Facebook? You see the memes or pictures that are on the internet? If you see it on your screen, use this software called Snippet, okay? And you can take a picture of what you see on your screen. If you're paying a bill and you want verification that you paid the bill, you may want to know how to take that screenshot, because it's really, really handy, both from a legal, but also if you're making signs, voila. Parties and stuff like this. You pay some bucks up front, get these things enlarged, and use them for four times. Believe me, from a value time standpoint. Now you may wonder, hey Bill, what's with the paper clips?
Bill, what's with paper clips?
What's with the paper clips? Does anybody here have a golf cart? What's at the top of the golf cart? You got a little piece of cloth that hangs down? Yeah. Decorative piece? Sorry, I couldn't bring my golf cart in. But what you have now is signs for a golf cart rally. Let me ask you this. If I were to say the word cable car, what do you think of automatically? I want to have it so that when people say golf cart, they think of... That's why we had Kamala Harris's husband out here. Was due to the golf cart rally that took place about a month beforehand. And he came out here specifically to be in a golf cart parade or rally. And that's what we're trying to do with all of our events, is to have the golf cart tied in somehow, some way. Okay? So, which leads me to say the following. At all of the events, knowledge of what's going on. So I mentioned about next Saturday on the 17th, and also coming on June 14th is that there's going to be a good-sized march, or sign rally that's going to be taking place. Happens to be the same day we're having a meeting here, so we're trying to juggle things. And that's going to be held at the
Lake Sumter.
Lake Sumter, thank you, and Morris at the intersection there. Okay, we're going to have more of our signs out there. And that's why we'll be doing with that. Let me see. Yes.
Okay, the last rally, they told the park they were going to be towed away from that parking lot. Can you give us more information about that?
Yeah, we do not sponsor the events, okay? There's basically 3 people on Facebook who do it. And so picture this, you get 1,500 people, and how many people do they have? 3, they're all volunteers, right? So what transpired, they figured out where they can park, where they can't, and we got a map house. It's basically green, you can park there, red, don't go. And where we're gonna have all this information is, oh, wait a second. What's the name of the website? And if you look over on the far left-hand side, the word calendar, okay? And look what happens when you go on the calendar, just pop that up. These will be where all of our events are going to be. Currently, this is where we post events, and we have an item on there called Other. In other words, if we're not supervising or putting together the event, somebody else outside, we put it under Other, our outside events. But that gives you the location, dates, and times, and so forth. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation with parking, with lessons learned. Please take into account that we are trying to catch up with what Trump's doing, and a lot of this is taking place at a national level as far as the organization. That's why you're going to have some bumps and stuff along the road. But you know what? We're out there hustling and keeping up with them. So that's why you've probably seen it on a few newspapers or a couple TV shows. So then, anyway, that's the focus on what we're doing. Yes?
So isn't June 14th Trump's 79th birthday?
Yes.
So that's why it's really important to have it.
Yes. We will not have any tanks.
Golf course.
Right, time, 10:30 to 12:30. Okay, and again, a lot of this will come down from the national, and they have to push this out to locals. Realize the national folks are basically a very small organization, few people and volunteers. They don't have computer systems set up to take on the hundreds of thousands of people that are signing up for this stuff. But they're doing a really admirable job. I salute them for what they're doing. And the great people that are doing this, definitely a big handout for them being able to do it. Yes?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I heard something about June 6th, also a Veterans March in DC. So I don't know how many people have the wherewithal to go to DC, but it's a Veterans March and they're trying to get a lot of people there to make it be bigger than Trump's parade, which I don't know if that's possible, but you know, they're trying to get, so it's mainly veterans, but they say they just want everybody who can get there to go. So just sort of let you know about that.
Yeah, and you know, given the size and the scale of what this organization is trying to, there's more than one organization putting these together, so they also have, it's almost like 3 of them, they take the time out. You know, I can see why, after putting all these things together. There's a couple people in the club, Melissa here is one of the folks that are out on Facebook, and you know, it's almost like we have different radars set up for different incoming as far as information, so that when we find out there's an event coming up like the Ocala and the Inverness, that's why it goes in touch with two people within our club. One is Jeff, who puts together keeps us very current. The website, you can do that like instantaneously sort of thing. That's why if you want really, really current stuff, that's why you go to the website. And then, of course, we have the buzz that comes out. You get the email on Sunday nights. We prefer not to update it on a daily basis. We don't want to inundate people's mailboxes, our emails. So the go-to place will be the website and under calendar. Yes?
Any buses going to Washington that day?
And not that I'm aware of. They will not let me drive a bus. Okay. With that said, and inflation, I'm going to turn it over to Ash. What's going on?
I'm the last minute stop. Barbie said we wish her quick and good recovery, and we are going to help her win the election next year. The Lake County people have her petition here. If you haven't signed her petition, please do sign her petition. She needs like 11,000 petitions to qualify for election. Anyway, I just wanted to say that we are all prepared. 26th November, Barbie Harding Hall as our Congresswoman. Today, I don't have any slides. I want to continue talking about the inflation that I spoke last month and what is happening under Trump. And I want to start with a little story about myself, personal history. About 20 years ago, I was working on a project to get some work on Oakland Bay Bridge in San Francisco. I wanted a little piece of the work, but I didn't get it. It was the biggest bridge project in United States history. It was $1 billion bridge at that time. And if you know anything about bridge construction, everything that comes on the bridge has to be made in USA. Except in the case of Oakland Bay Bridge, they made an exception that the steel will come from China, the bearings will come from South Korea, and I don't remember, there was another item from England. The biggest bridge in the United States, biggest construction, the suppliers were given special permission to bring their stuff to build the bridge in the United States, in San Francisco. This is 20 years ago. A few years later, I was actually a consultant on a bridge in Dubai. And I, from my experience, I told them, they were trying to build a concrete bridge. I told them, no, try and build a steel bridge and get the steel from China. This is for real, that happened with me. And just to tell you, you know, some of these curved bridges that you see on the road, if you go underneath, the beams are curved, they follow the curve. That means you have to heat up the steel to make it into curve. If you have a bridge like Oakland Bay Bridge, to curve those beams, those long beams, we did not have the mills here to do it. That's why the steel was coming from China. What is happening today is it's not just the auto parts, it's the molds, it's the rolls that are used in the mills to make things. Even they are coming from China. Over the years, we have shifted our production to China. I remember in 1970s, Westinghouse was making toasters, and a friend of mine was in charge of shifting the production to the islands, to Caribbean islands. They were thrilled that they could make their toasters cheaper outside the country. And that has been happening. And what that has done is, it is interdependence. It's not we are dependent on China or any other country. It is an interdependence. The world has become small. It's not any exclusive rights that we have or others have. Everybody is interdependent. And we have to live with that interdependence. What Trump is doing is, he is really destroying this whole system. And what Bill presented with the inflation, that is really, really happening. And just to talk about Trump and his obsession with dolls, Mattel has already announced that the Barbie dolls will be more expensive. So the Barbie dolls prices have already gone up. And the Chinese websites, Tien and Temu and Shein, they have already announced they're raising prices. Amazon was going to list all the tariffs on their website till Trump got to Jeff Bezos, and they're now going to list the prices for import fee, but we are going to pay higher prices. It's coming. Last month I think I come to the conclusion that we are at 5.77% expected inflation. I think we're getting there, and I think my time's up.
Thanks for the patience. We're doing a little bit of an improv, obviously, in scheduling wise. And we have Anna, Christina, Acosta, from the Florida studying healthcare, and can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're on.
Fantastic. Hello. Thank you guys for having me. Always a great opportunity to speak with the villages. Most recently, I'm coming off of the Harris campaign. I was always jealous I didn't get to come to your parade. All right. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Fantastic. All right. So just to level set a little bit, Florida Decides Healthcare, we are the political committee working to pass the ballot initiative to expand Medicaid eligibility in Florida to individuals making below 138% of the federal poverty level. We have a really wide coalition supporting us in this important work, including all of you lovely folks, but that is our core mission. I'm going to give you a bit of a campaign overview, talk about the petition and the process of collecting petitions, a little bit on our volunteer infrastructure, and then I really want to take some time to talk about the current landscape, particularly with HB 1205 passing last week. And then we'll hopefully have a little bit of time for Q&A. So why are we here? Florida is actually just one of 10 states that has not expanded Medicaid eligibility, and it is time we modernize healthcare in Florida. Also, something we've seen really become prominent this year is that expanding Medicaid anywhere protects Medicaid everywhere. This has actually been one of the big things stopping the federal government from splashing into Medicaid thus far. If you're wondering who Medicaid expansion will help and how it works, really what it does is address that coverage gap of folks who are making a little too much to be on Medicaid right now, but not nearly enough to be on Affordable Care Act Obamacare. So actually expanding Medicaid will provide affordable healthcare access to about 1.4 million Floridians. If you're thinking, my gosh, that sounds expensive, worry not. It will actually infuse billions of federal dollars that we're already paying out they'll just bring that money back into Florida and also create a bunch of new jobs. It is very much an everyone wins scenario, which is why it is really important that we get this done. I'm going to give you a few demographics here just by the numbers to give you a sense of who all would be impacted by this. The short spoiler version is everybody, but the demographic breakdown is pretty even in terms of gender. Age-wise, as you can see, while expansion will only directly impact between 19 and 64-year-olds, there are some secondary impacts that will also affect folks that are younger and older than that. Race ethnicity is really interesting as well. You notice that 31% of the folks that will have direct benefit are Latino. 23% of those are Black, right? It is an everyone issue here. A few more numbers for you here. In terms of who was projected to benefit from Medicaid expansion, over 500,000 low-income uninsured adults, 91,000 uninsured parents with kids at home. The secondary effect being that kids whose parents are insured are more likely to get health care benefits themselves. 50,000 uninsured Floridians with disabilities who are currently falling into that coverage gap. Almost 400,000 Floridians with mental illness. 144,000 women, including over 100,000 of reproductive age, who are currently falling into that gap. 382,000 essential workers, right? Frontline industries who currently fall in that gap. Over 100,000 veterans in Florida who are below the poverty level. Whether they have VA benefits or not, they could benefit from Medicaid expansion. And finally, Floridians in rural areas. One of the things that we are really aware of is that rural hospitals are highly dependent on us expanding Medicaid to be able to stay open. So for folks in rural areas, that could mean the difference between having a 45-minute commute to a doctor and a 3-hour commute to the doctor if we expand Medicaid or not. Also, expanding Medicaid, getting more healthcare coverage throughout the state to everyone is going to help bring everyone's premiums down, right? That's just a reality we have seen in every other state that's expanded. So even if there are not direct impacts, there are always indirect impacts for basically every Floridian. So, while it is important to think about the 1.4 million people, it's always also really helpful to think about the one, right? The individuals who benefit. So I wanted to share one of those stories with you here. Hopefully this will play. Let me know if it doesn't.
My name's Summer. I live in Broward County in Florida. I'm a single mom of my daughter who's 5 years old. I have stage 3 colon cancer. It's a very aggressive form of cancer. Like they said, the type of cancer I have is very aggressive.
What's the video?
The reason they said I got denied and they dropped my insurance this time, apparently I made a little bit too much money, which I didn't realize because I was making around the same that I always had made and had gotten approved for it. So I'm really not sure what happened or, why all of a sudden they're saying I'm making too much money now. And even if it went slightly over the, cutoff for what you can make to receive Medicaid, I still, barely make enough to pay the bills and get by and, don't have extra to be paying, a very expensive out-of-pocket insurance. So in order to get Medicaid back, I have to show a whole month of proof of lower income. Since I'm starting the chemotherapy and will be working less, then hopefully I should be able to get it back. But like I said, I had to wait 30 days to get that proof of my paychecks being lower. And now I should be able to apply again now. And then once you apply, then it's another 30 days process to process the application. So that leaves me without any insurance for 2 months at least or longer. And then once I apply, there's no guarantee that I will get it. All I can do is apply and try it again.
Yeah, so we hear many stories like Summer's, and it's just important to emphasize that these are the individuals that will benefit from this, right? So what does it actually take to expand Medicaid in Florida through the ballot initiative? We are in the process right now of collecting petitions. We need a minimum of 880 and 62 valid petitions from registered Florida voters, including a certain spread across congressional districts. In order to get to that number, we need to collect a little over 1 million because obviously a few end up being invalid. So that is our goal for this year, and our goal is to be done collecting by December. Once we have done that, we will be on the ballot for 2026, at which point we will need 60% of the vote to go our way in order for us to successfully enact Medicaid expansion in Florida. So in terms of our timeline, we have collected about 100,000 petitions already. We launched our paid programs in Tampa, Miami, and Pensacola in April, and we'll be expanding throughout the states throughout the rest of the year. We're going to continue collecting pretty aggressively, and like I said, our goal is to be done collecting by December 1st of this year. to trigger the ballot placement. Once that is done, by February of 2026, we'll officially be on the ballot, and from then we will be working on the Yes campaign to bring affordable healthcare to more than 1.4 million Floridians on November 3rd of 2026. So the petitions themselves, the section that matters to you is the voter information section. It looks like this. Some important things to keep in mind is that with the new legislation that has passed, we can no longer help someone fill this out, so they have to fill it out themselves, and we can't help them make corrections, so they have to make all corrections themselves. So it's really important when you are filling it out, when you are asking someone else to fill it out, to look over it closely, because the form is designed to be a little bit tricky, I think, sometimes. It is last name, first name, address. The line that trips people up the most is that third line, city, zip code, county. You'd be surprised how many times we just sort of habitually fill in and put in Orlando, Florida, and then our zip code, and then go, wait, hang on a second, that's not right. Or vice versa, they'll do city, zip code, and then they'll read county as country and put USA. So really important to make sure we give that line a good look over. The second line is the line after that as well, also trips people up. You need either your voter registration number, which, let's be honest, very few of us know off the top of our heads, or the date of birth. So most people will use date of birth, sign it, date it, and we are good to go. You can print blank petitions yourself off our website in English, Spanish, or Haitian Creole. You can also pick them up from one of our 50 hubs. There are a few around you. I'll go and show the map for you right here. There are, like I said, 50 of them throughout the state, but we definitely still need more. So if you have any ideas, if there are any in your area where you're like, oh, that's a gap, be nice to have something close by, and you have any ideas, please let me know. Always appreciate that. And then all completed petitions should be either dropped off at a hub or mailed directly to us at this address. Please note this is not the address on the petition itself. That address is to our PO box. This is the direct address to our auditor as part of the adjustments following the legislation. We're trying to expedite the process by skipping the PO box as sort of the middleman and having it go directly to our auditor. So please mail in all petitions to this address and try and get them either to your hubs or mailed in within 24 hours of collection, as we are operating on slightly tighter timelines these days. Here are a few pictures of our volunteers in action. Always love to see those. If you all are collecting at any upcoming events, please share those pictures with us. We love to see it. We love to get a sense of all of the volunteerism happening throughout the state. I have to say, it has been really great to see that skyrocket over these last few months and continue to do so. So really appreciate getting that feedback and getting those pictures. A little bit more on our volunteer infrastructure. We do have volunteer training calls on Zoom 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. You can sign up for those on our Mobilize. And you can find all upcoming events on our Mobilize as well. As we become aware of those protests that are happening or any other events or might be a good opportunity to collect petitions, we post those on our Mobilize and ask you to let us know if you're going to be collecting at any of those. But also if you have ideas of things, things that you're aware of that maybe we have not caught on to yet, please let us know. We're happy to add them to the listing. For those of you that want to help from home or have a little extra time here and there, we are also running Chase phone banks to folks who have requested petitions and haven't had a chance to mail them back in. A little more context on this, we are partnered with a group called Tallied that will mail a petition to someone who requests it with a return envelope. We're in the middle of revamping that, as we previously were using pre-fills and those are no longer allowed. But so now they will mail a blank petition, but as soon as we have that link back up, I will let you all know. So these are the calls to the folks that have requested it, probably set it down on their kitchen counter, forgot about it, and need to send it back in. They're really friendly calls, really helpful, always work out pretty well if you have a little extra time. Appreciate you hopping in on that. Finally, we are always looking for healthcare stories. It is really important to share stories like Summer's as part of the education piece of getting Medicaid expansion, not just on the ballot, but actually to get 60% plus support. It is important to share stories from healthcare providers, current Medicaid recipients, those who have fallen in the coverage gap, really to humanize the issue. Like I said, 1.4 million is a big number, and that should be enough for everyone, but sometimes it's the personal story that really gets people across the line to understand why this matters and who this would affect. I now want to give you a little bit of an update in terms of the current political landscape. The good news first is that a recent Mason-Dixon poll shows that this is a really popular issue here in Florida, with 78% support, including 69% Republican support. The honest truth of it is, if we can collect the petitions, get it on the ballot, we feel really comfortable that we will be able to pass this. Unfortunately, with abortion, it was a bit more of a controversial issue. There are people out there who just really wake up and that's the thing they want to fight against. That is not the case with Medicaid expansion, and we have the benefit of that, and frankly, the benefit of all the other states that have already passed it, where they have proved that it is a very popular bipartisan issue. In terms of the federal landscape, of course, we're watching that pretty closely. But the reality is that, again, the best statement we can make in defense of Medicaid is to strongly show, our support for it here in Florida by expanding it, showing that it is an everyone issue and that's something that they shouldn't touch, right? When the Medicaid portal was shut down for a day a couple months ago, it wasn't, sort of our base and echo chamber that got it back up online. It was governors from Republican states like Tennessee, where 25% of folks are on Medicaid, that called and said, "What are you doing?" That got it back up quickly. And frankly, that has been what has protected it thus far. And so our supporting Medicaid expansion here in Florida will only further that protection. And now for the piece that I think most of us have been following the closest, which is the local stuff. In case you're not aware, HB 1205 was signed into law by the governor a little over a week ago now, on May 2nd. This new law limits citizen-led amendments and creates hurdles that make it harder and costlier for communities to come together and make change. I do want to really stress that. While it makes it harder and more expensive, it does not make it impossible. And no matter what happens, we're going to keep going. We have many contingency plans, but I do want to stress that. Some parts of this legislation went into effect right away upon the law being signed, while most others will go into effect on July 1st. So a little bit of a breakdown in terms of what went into effect immediately. The 10-day return requirement went into effect. There's some ambiguity as to who that affects exactly, but just out of an overabundance of caution, that's why we're asking you to get things handed back in as quickly as possible. They also increased fines and penalties, including new penalties implemented for filling in missing information and pre-fills. That's why I mentioned that earlier, as well as new penalties implemented for RICO, i.e. racketeering activity. But really, the bulk of this affected our paid program. We did have to shut down temporarily our paid program to make these adjustments. But our volunteer program, most of the things that would affect it will go into effect on July 1, which is why we have to make the absolute most of these next few months. So what goes into effect July? An expanded definition of petition circulator, which includes unpaid volunteers. Previously, a petition circulator was really only a paid petition circulator, so this is really one of the biggest changes and one of the most egregious parts of this legislation. All circulators, paid and volunteer, will have to register with the Division of Election. They will have to use a new form that will include more information both from the person collecting petitions as well as from the voter who's filling out the petition. New penalties implemented for collecting or possessing petitions without being a registered circulator, and new restrictions on who can serve as a circulator. So in order to circulate petitions starting July 1st, you must be a Florida resident, a US citizen, and a non-felon. And these petition forms will also, just as an added bonus, not be verified by the state from July to September. So we won't really have the clear sense of where we are in terms of progress for those months. But we did file litigation. So we knew this was coming. We knew there was a strong possibility this bill would pass or its Senate equivalent. So FDH with Sun Poverty Law Center and Elias Law Group as our legal counsel filed a legal complaint within 48 hours of HB 1205 passing, and we are seeking a temporary restraining order to challenge this outrageous rollback of our constitutional freedom. So we are fighting this in court. We are planning ahead no matter what happens, right? The bottom line here is that we will continue to collect petitions and we will get this on the ballot this year because frankly, not doing so is not an option. That said, it is imperative we make the most of these 2 months to ensure we're able to qualify on the ballot comfortably and aren't in a really bad scramble towards the end of the year. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and take any questions y'all might have.
Do we have any questions? Looks like we have one. You share the microphone with me.
Thanks for the presentation. So what is your response to the man on the street who says, sounds good, but who's going to pay for this? And for how long is that protocol in place?
So you're asking specifically about paying for Medicaid expansion, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so actually the reality is we're already paying for it. We are already getting taxed to pay for this, except our money is going into all of those 40 other states and not into Florida. The reality is it will actually save Florida money. That is what the financial impact statement shows. Not only will it create more jobs and keep hospitals open and give people health care, it will actually save us money. So it's not going to increase our taxes. We're already paying for it.
Why aren't we getting the money in Florida?
Hold on for a second. We'll get the microphone over to you.
Logically, why are we not getting over the money in Florida? I thought the governor was best buddies with Trump.
So I'm hearing a lot of background, but I think the question I heard is why are we not getting that money? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because we haven't opted in. So just to give you a little bit of background, when the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare passed, they made it an opt-in system. That was just part of the wheeling and dealing that happened, thinking who wouldn't opt in into getting more resources and federal dollars? That would be crazy. Of course, we all know that at that point, Mitch McConnell said, anything Obama wants, we vote no, right? So it became very partisan in a silly way that, we did not opt in because politics, essentially. And the reality is plenty of the folks who are opposed are like, I'm against it because I have been told to. I don't really know why I should be. Because again, as I went through, it benefits everybody, right? It's going to benefit the entire state for us to opt in. So really, it comes down to partisan politics, and it's something that we can fix with this ballot initiative.
Do you have any idea on how many residents in assisted living are on Medicaid?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I do know that that is a substantial number. I will say that the expansion does not directly benefit that group because it is really focused on the 19 to 64 bucket. But the sort of secondary effects, right, of bringing everyone's premiums down and bringing the money into the state overall will still also benefit.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? Comments? We have one here in the front.
I won't need a microphone. So then I take it President Trump can't be a petitioner.
Yeah, guess not.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
Speak right into the microphone.
Now it's on. Okay, what I said was, if the state of Florida is funding it, okay, it is your tax dollars that's actually paying for it. However, the federal government funding it, it is not your tax dollars, even though a lot of politicians basically, convince you of that. The federal government is a fiat currency environment. They create the money. They do not need your tax dollars to pay for it. The tax dollars basically are just taking, some money out of the economy, but they are not needed to actually pay for it. So, the federal government, it's politics, and most people don't understand the way it really works. There's a thing called modern monetary theory, and that is, from an operational perspective, they're taking your taxes and to take money out of the economy, but they're not actually funding anything specifically. That's done purely by Congress saying, make this payment, and the money gets created, do that. And Elon Musk became aware of this recently when he came up with the 14 or so, computers that are magic money machines.
Fair enough. No, yeah. I mean, I think the bigger takeaway from our perspective is it's not going to cost us more. We'll say that, right? Like it will not cost us more here in Florida. If anything, it'll bring money back into the state. Money that, to be fair, yes, is coming from the federal dollars because it is a 90% match.
You would please. If I am collecting petitions right now, what is the deadline for turning those in before we run into this new law?
July 1st. So what we are asking is you try and get them in as regularly as you can, but until July 1st, we're good to go, no matter what happens. Hopefully with the litigation, we'll be able to extend that without having to follow these additional rules. But until July 1st, we are good to go to keep collecting as we have been.
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. Very timely. With that, I just want to say thank you so much to Anna and Christina.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And I would like to also mention about we talked a little bit about the club's website, the Villages right? And we have a lot of good features on that, but unfortunately what we do not have on there is the eBay feature, okay? Because someone made a wonderful donation to us in the other room. They left their cell phone. Do I hear any bidders? So if this is your phone, just give me a call, I'll give it back to you. I will obviously keep it for you. I did want to mention, yes.
Are there going to be petitions for us to sign today?
Yes, up here. Yeah.
Thanks for asking. What I handed out earlier to some of the folks who were here early was a list of all of the activities that the club has for the month of May. And we have this on the website now, or we will be having it on the website the next day or two. And it's going to be underneath the word calendar. So when you look at your name tag, your lanyard, look, see where it says calendar, and you'll have a new pop-up feature that will say daily events for the club. And it's a one-page, easy to follow, and it's just in chronological order. Now you may wonder about how did this thing come about? It shows up like magic. Well, I'll tell you how it came about. Is that I had this really important meeting. That was on me. And I was going, why? I'm in the bathroom, I'm trying to brush my teeth, and it's like, oh gosh, I missed the meeting yesterday. And it's like, how did I possibly do that? Why don't they, the Democratic Club, have a list? A one-page list that'd be easy to follow. And I got thinking, wait a minute, time out. I use the word they. And I'm looking in the mirror. And one of my skills, remember the skills request? I worked with Excel for years. Okay? And you know what? I know how to format. So I put together this list, circulated to some folks, and it's formed larger and larger, and we now have it on the website. And that's how things get done. It's by volunteers who have different backgrounds. Let us know what your backgrounds are, and we'll try to match up to what we're trying to find. And if you see something that should be done, please do not be looking in the mirror and talking about they. Okay? It's the guy and the person in the mirror that can make a difference. And, wheel it on out, and we'll see what goes. Because you got some new folks that want to implement some new things, and we need ideas, and we need your talents and sharing with you. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to the Vice President of the club. Come on up, fellas.
And this is my second meeting as Vice President and the first time speaking. I lived in the village of DeLuna for about 2.5 years, and one of the things I really love most is to breathe blue air. So would everybody just take a deep breath? Breathe that blue air. Midnight. There's been a lot of attacks against the Democrats since things did not go as we had hoped with the presidential election. The Democrats don't have clarity, we're confused, we don't know what we're doing. We gotta get them together, and even here in the villages, we're all over the map. There is some truth to that. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions, starting with, do we know exactly what's gonna happen to inflation? Yes or no?
Yes.
Not really.
I know.
Really? No, we don't exactly. Do we know exactly what's going to happen to Medicare? No. Do we know exactly what's going to happen to Medicaid? No. Do we know exactly what's going to happen because of these tariffs? No. Do we know exactly what's going to happen to the price of eggs? No. To the price of our nest eggs? If they will comply with the courts? No. Do we know what's going to happen? SpaceX is going to go up, but will our Earth and planet, how deep is it going to go down? Do we know what's going to happen to LGBTQ+? No. Do we know where the next retaliation is? No. Our allies of the world, what they're going to do with us? Do we know? No. Do we know what's going to happen to vaccines? No. Our Social Security? No. What we do know is that this group, those we are on our team, we are going to witness in the streets. Do I have a yes? Yes. Are we going to stop hate? Yes. Are we going to canvass at houses that we know are Democrats and independents? Yes. Are we going to connect with Democrats in the villages and independents in the villages? Yes. Are we going to work with Sumter County and Lake County and Marion County on voter registration?
Yes. Vote by mail.
Vote by mail.
You must register for vote by mail.
Do we know that some of you Democrats are going to connect with Democrat golfers, and some will connect with coffee at Sawgrass in the morning. Some will connect with monthly women's groups that have lunch together. In many ways, we can connect in our counties of Sumter, Lake, Marion, so that there will be liberty and justice for all. Three quick things in closing. Number one, I want you to spend 25 seconds talking to the person on your left and saying what you're going to do to help Villages Democratic Club.
Well,
you can continue that in the hall. I'm trying to get that third. So the next thing I want you to do real quick is take that piece of paper out of your lanyard. That little piece of paper that you have that says Villages Democratic Club, take that out.
take it out. Okay, bye-bye.
Now, we want you to pass that on to a friend or a neighbor and invite them to join the Villages Democratic Club. You can leave your lanyard in the back, but take that little business side piece of paper like a business card, and we hope that at least 50% of you will get it on to a neighbor or friend. And finally, I want to encourage you to read The Buzz. The Buzz is a wonderful, comes out primarily put together by a member of the board, Patty, and it has wonderful, she's new at this for us.
She's doing awesome, eh?
And if you are a member for $24 a year, you get The Buzz every week, at least once a week in your email. So, thank you, everybody. We are not confused. Well, they may say we are. There will be liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much for investing your time tonight, and we look forward to next month, which will be on the 14th of June. And we have a very good speaker that's going to be here. We have to figure out exactly how we're going to, time that stuff. So it might start a little bit early. Keep an eye on the buzz, which comes out in an email form on Sunday evening. We'll announce that if we have any time change. But otherwise, look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.